Yo, what up, team? I always like mixing up the intros, but what up, team? How you guys doing? Coach Chad here, CEO of the Next Level Coaching Academy. We're gonna get rocking and rolling on today's podcast, where we're gonna be talking about 75 hard and how the fat CEO went to the fit CEO. Only just playing around, but yes, I did lose a significant amount of weight on 75 hard. I believe I started 75 hard at right around 227, 228, and I finished at 214. I can't tell you the last time I saw 214 pounds on the scale. I believe it had to have been around 2018, 2019, since I've seen that weight on the scale, which is ridiculous. But we're going to break it all down. All right. I have a lot of talking points about 75 hard, both, my opinions, my takeaways, my strategy. We're going to get into it all. Who knows? Maybe this will be a longer podcast. I feel like I got a lot to say about this one. I feel like it was very impactful. I know there are a lot of opinions on 75 hard. My opinion is, and I think I stated this on a previous podcast, but I believe that 75 hard is really good for individuals who have displayed discipline in their life and are in one sense of the word already. Maybe it's in their relationship, in their fitness, and their business, but really want to take their discipline to that next level. The second type of individual that I think 75 hard is for is somebody who has been disciplined and then has fallen off their discipline and needs a little reboot. I do not think, and I do not advocate for 75 hard being a introduction level program for fitness. I really don't even view it as a fitness program. I believe it as a mindset and discipline program that I think there should be some fitness prerequisites to actually being something that you execute on. But let's get into it. Like I said, I got a lot of talking points today. So let's do it. Number one, I just wanted to talk about why I chose to do it. All right. So there were a couple of different reasons why I chose to do it. And I would say in 2020, I kind of got into a funk. And I know I've talked about this ad nauseum in terms of from the fitness perspective. But I would say from 2020, 2021, and 2022, actually 2021 and 2022 mostly, I was in a fitness funk. I gained a lot of weight. I ballooned up from about 218, 220, all the way up to 224 pounds. And it started to definitely have an effect on me personally. I noticed as a result of falling off on my fitness, I started to fall off on my personal development. I used to be on top of my personal development. I used to be the type of individual that would always go for a morning walk, would always listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook. And I was always actively seeking to learn and grow. And I noticed towards the tail end of 2022, it all started to come to a head. It all started to come to this point where I was like, man, I really am not myself anymore. I feel like I've fallen off on a lot of the things that have made me me. And, that being, morning walks, investing time into personal development, going to events, reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, all that stuff. I felt like I really fell off on. And I feel like I was the only thing in my life that I was really focused on was my business. And I spent a disproportionate amount of my time growing my business and focusing on my business. And I did that at the detriment of my fitness and my personal development. And I learned that that doesn't have to be the case, and we'll get into that in a minute, but that's point number one. That's why I chose to do 75 hard, and just being honest with y'all and candorous with y'all, that's the case. I fell off. All right. We're not perfect, right? We all have deficiencies. And one of my deficiencies is I could become hyper fixated on something in my life. And I have a tendency, when I do become hyper fixated on that thing in my life, to really put the blinders on and forget about aspects of myself, and sometimes even forget about other people. Sometimes I can be very hard to be in a relationship with, whether that's a friendship or a significant relationship, because I do have that unique ability to be hyper fixated and hyper focused on things and put blinders on and kind of ignore the rest. And I don't do it intentionally. And it's something that I'm working on, and definitely something that I think 75 hard has helps me get back into gear on. All right. So if you are listening to this podcast or watching this video and you don't know what 75 hard is, I'll explain it to you. So it is technically classified as a fitness challenge. I really do think it is a personal development, mindset, discipline type challenge. But what it is for 75 days, you need to have perfection on these items. And by perfection, I mean you don't miss a single inch of any of them, right? So item number one is you have to do an outdoor workout 45 minutes every day. Rain, snow, sleet, sun. You got to go outside every single day and do a 45-minute workout. All right. On top of that, you have to do a second 45-minute workout. Now it doesn't have to be outside. It can be outside, but you just have to do a second 45-minute workout. All right. The third thing you have to do is you have to drink a gallon of water a day. That's 128 ounces. You have to have no booze for 75 days. There are not a single shot of alcohol. You need to follow a diet, and that one's left a little for interpretation. I'll talk about what I did here in a minute, but follow a diet. You need to read 10 pages of a book every single day, and you need to take a progress photo every single day as well. All right, so you need to do those items every single day for 75 days. All right, let's chat about my approach. All right, my approach and my experience is going to be what we get into next here. All right, so for the outdoor 45-minute workout, what I did is I did a 45-minute walk outside. All right. So what I did to be able to actually accomplish this is I used to wake up around 5:30, 5:45, and then I would start my workday almost immediately, like right at like 6:15, 6:30. I used to wake up 5:30, 5:45, take a shower, start work immediately. There was no bridge to my day. And keep in mind, there used to be a bridge to my day way back when, and I kind of, threw that by the wayside in favor of work. So in order for me to get this 45-minute walk in, what my approach was is I woke up much earlier. So I woke up at 4:45 and I would start walking by 5:15. All right. This way I still was able to get home by 6, and then I would shower. I always do a little visualization. So I did a little visualization. Can't speak. Visualization, whatever the word is, you guys know what I'm trying to say. And I would start work at 6:30. All right. Now, my biggest takeaway from this one, and we're going to go item by item here, but my biggest takeaway here for the outdoor walk is two things. One, it 110% sets the tone for the day from a stress standpoint. All right. What I noticed when I was waking up at 5:30, 5:45 and starting work at 6 and not really having any bridge to the day is I would start my day very reactive, right? Open up the computer, start working right away. Boom, boom, boom. I'm in reaction mode, right? I'm not dictating my day. And what I notice now when I wake up at 4:45 and I'm going for a walk by 5:15 is I'm going into the day a lot less stressed and a lot more clear and level-headed and a lot more grounded. And I feel like from a business perspective, I'm not as reactive, and I can actually be strategic with how I'm planning the day and what I'm getting done. All right. Also, my biggest takeaway here is, and I used to do this all the time, but I killed two birds with one stone. I would go for a walk and listen to a podcast, and that was my personal development time. And I missed that. So that was something I was able to get back by doing this 45-minute walk in the morning, is I doubled that up and killed two birds with one stone. I warmed up my body with the walk, and I warmed up my mind with the podcast. And it's definitely something if you are a high achiever, if you are somebody who really focuses on work, this is a practice that has really helped me stimulate the body and stimulate the mind before I get into work. Okay, so that was my approach with the outdoor workout. All right. And those were my big takeaways from the outdoor workout as well. One other thing I will say with the outdoor workout is I didn't think I had time to do a 45-minute at-home work or outdoor workout. But let me tell you, I did have time. I just had to wake up a little bit earlier. Okay, so the second thing on that list was an additional 45-minute workout. All right, so I don't have a whole ton of like takeaways from this one. I will go over my strategy. The reason I don't have a ton of takeaways is regardless if I was 244 pounds or 218 pounds, I've always been consistent with working out. I've never actually fallen off working out. I mostly have fallen off the diet aspect and mostly the diet aspect, but I never fell off the working out aspect. So I didn't have a lot of takeaways from this one because this was something I was already relatively pretty consistent at. However, here was my approach. All right. So 3 days a week, I would do boxing. 3 days a week I would lift, so that's 6 days a week, and then the additional day I would do 2 walks. All right, so if there's 7 days in a week, three of those days for the second 45-minute workout would be boxing, like actually having a boxing instructor. The other 3 days a week I would go to the gym and I'd lift, and then that seventh day I would just do 2 walks, 45-minute walks. This was a good approach for me because I really liked the boxing because I didn't have to think. I didn't have to come up with a workout. I didn't have to go in there and plan. All I had to do was show up, and then the boxing instructor took me through the workout. And I love workouts like that, especially when you're an entrepreneur, because like I said, you don't have to think. You just go in there and do. And it really allows you to detach, and it really allows you to just get into the flow of the workout. The 3 lifts, nothing really strategic there. I just like to lift and I like to have a more muscular physique. So I kept 3 lifts in there. And then that additional day where I would do 2 walks. The reason I didn't make that another lift is I'm a big believer in rest and recovery. Obviously 2 walks, it's not necessarily rest and recovery, but I felt like this was the next best thing to getting a rest day on 75 hard was just making that 7th day 2 walks opposed to a walk and another lift. Okay, the next item on that list is the 1 gallon of water. Once again, not a whole ton of takeaways here because I've always been obsessed with drinking a ton of water. It's something I've always been really good at. I will give you my approach though. So we have a fridge that dispenses water, and that makes my life so much easier. If I didn't have a fridge that dispensed water, I probably actually would not be as good at drinking water, or we would have to buy a lot of water bottles. And 1, I don't want to spend the money on that. And 2, obviously it's not good for the environment. So I highly recommend if you can invest in either a Brita filter, having a fridge that dispenses water, or having one of those 5-gallon jugs that dispenses water. If you work at home, for me, it's like game changer. Makes my life a hell of a lot easier when it comes to actually drinking water. So that's been very easy for me. Now, I drink out of a 32-ounce cup. For me, I would rather drink 4 32-ounce cups than I would, 10 20-ounce cups or whatever it may be. 4 32-ounce cups equals 128 ounces. So it was very easy for me to hit the 1 gallon of water. Now, I will say on the days that I have less water off of 75 hard, like if I ever have a day where I have less water, I definitely do feel less energized and less mental focus. So if you aren't drinking water, very simple thing that you could change to have more clarity. Okay, the next one here was no booze. And this was the part that I was most nervous about. I am not necessarily a lush, but I do like to have some drinks on the weekends. And I don't necessarily party, but I do like to have drinks when we go out to eat. If we go out to eat with friends or I go out to eat with Caitlin, previous and prior to 75 hard, I would probably have 3 drinks a dinner. And we used to go out to dinner 3 times a week. So if you do the math, that's 9 drinks a week. And I can tell you right now, that was fucking up my weight loss for sure. If I had to pinpoint one thing that attributed to my success for weight loss, it was not drinking for 75 days. I can guarantee it. And I can also guarantee from a work perspective, I like to work on Sundays. We would usually go out to eat on Saturdays and Fridays and sometimes Thursdays and sometimes Sunday nights as well. But I since I worked on Sundays, I would wake up and I would not have the best work day. And when I was not drinking on 75 hard, I would wake up on Sunday, and Sunday actually became the most productive day for me out of the whole entire week. I got like 3 days of work done on a Sunday every single week, and it was fucking stellar. But this was the part that I was most nervous about. And I'm going to get vulnerable with y'all for a minute here, but I tend to drink to relieve social pressure. And the thought of not having that crutch honestly scared the shit out of me. That was the part that I was most nervous about, is that I wouldn't have a crutch to relieve that social pressure that drinking gives you. Now, this is also, once again, this was also the biggest contributor to my weight loss. But what I learned about the social crutch is that actually subsided very quickly. I was able to go to dinners and I didn't have any social anxiety at all after probably maybe three dinners without using alcohol as a crutch. My social anxiety around going to dinners dissipated, and this is something that I feel now very, very confident about. And I know I'm getting vulnerable with you, but that was an area that I wasn't so confident about. And I feel like now, even beyond 75 hard, I'm going to be able to go to dinners and not have to get a drink to relieve social pressure. And if I want to have a drink, I can, but it doesn't mean that I have to have one every single time. That's probably the part that I am most proud about from 75 hard in its entirety. All right. The next aspect here is following a diet. So aside from the no booze, this was another one that I was a little bit nervous about because I technically, in quotes, was following a diet for honestly probably the better part of 2 years. Now, I wasn't following a diet very strictly. I was always trying to find ways to bend the rules. I would bend the rules, and that's probably why I didn't get results for 2 years. All right, and Andy Frisella talks about this a lot, but in 75 hard, it's about eliminating your habits of bending the rules. And this is the one that I feel like I also crushed really well, was the diet aspect. For me, I tracked macros. And I basically ate the same meals every day. So I have a coach, his name is Will Sage, shout out Will. He is the one who programmed my macros throughout the whole entire 75 days. And I hit those macros to a T. The workaround that I previously had was, well, I'm not going to track macros. I'm just going to try to hit a set of calories. And that never really worked for me. It wasn't until, or it worked for me, but it didn't work for me as well as when I was focused on hitting a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fat. So if you are using that crutch as well, promise you, throw it away. It's not serving you. The other thing that really helped me from the diet perspective was I basically ate the same meals every day. I don't know if you guys have the ability to do that, but I don't need a whole lot of variety in my food. I had the same breakfast every day. I had the same lunch every day, and dinner was kind of the alternate one where I would alternate through a couple of different options, but I don't really need a lot of variety in my food. And I think that really helps me stick to the macros. Once I found some dishes that set me up for success, I did a really good job of following the diet there. All right, the next one I definitely had a lot more takeaways on, and that was reading the 10 pages every single day. Previous to this, I can't even tell you the last time that I read a book in full, and I'm just being frank here. Prior to 75 hard, maybe the last time that I read a book in full was, I don't even think it was college. I don't even think it was high school. Maybe it was middle school. And I shit you not, I did not read. I did not classify myself as a reader. I had a lot of, I just didn't like reading. And I think the reason I didn't like reading is I wasn't good at school, and I labeled myself stupid in school because I used to get bullied for getting bad grades. And I think I just pushed reading aside. I said, fuck it, I don't need this. I would listen to audiobooks and I would listen to podcasts. But if I had to talk to the old version of myself, I would say, you ain't getting the same effect, bro. You ain't getting the same effect from podcasts and audiobooks. Get your head in a book. This is probably the biggest lifestyle change I'm going to have, aside from drinking alcohol, is I'm going to continue to read 10 pages a day. There is something dramatically different about reading a book than listening to an audiobook. I feel like you take away a lot more. It also has a very calming nature to your nervous system. I feel a lot more focused. I feel like my brain fires a lot better. I feel like my brain is a lot smarter. I feel like I can actually sit down and focus on projects. And I feel like on audiobooks, you could still very much have the ADHD brain. And I would say that I definitely have an ADHD brain, and reading is definitely something that helps me focus my ADHD brain. If you aren't reading, you got to read. Every time I would read just 10 pages, I would have a takeaway from the 10 pages or an action item. And I would be writing stuff down saying, all right, this is what I learned. This is what we're going to do. Literally just from 10 pages. And 10 pages, maybe if you're a slow reader like me, it takes you 20 minutes, right? But it probably takes you any from 10 to 15 minutes of your day. You have time. You have time. All right. Like I said, I thought I didn't have time to read. You have time. All right. I also didn't classify myself as studious. Fuck that. Get in the book. It's going to make you better. All right, the last one was taking a picture daily. This was not a hard one for me, but I will say I started 75 hard. And when I went to go on day 2, I forgot to take a picture day 1, and I did have to restart one time. But thankfully, I only missed one day, and then I restarted back at day 1. But it was taking the picture, the first thing that I missed. Now, what I did to prevent that from moving forward is I have a task sheet on monday.com for all my tasks. I created a line item that I titled 75 hard. And on that line item, it had every single criteria of 75 hard listed out. And as I would go throughout the day, I would just mark it done. And that was my action item from missing on day 1. I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to miss again. How can I avoid that? And that was my process there. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for. All right. I've talked about some minor takeaways, right? I've talked about my strategy. I want to finish this podcast with a bang. And what we're going to talk about is my biggest takeaway. All right. So if you know me and if you know my approach to mindset and in life, I have an approach called the 4 buckets approach. What the 4 buckets approach is you pick the 4 most important aspects of your life. And because it's classified as a bucket, right, you're going to distribute a certain amount of water to each bucket. Water in this example is energy or focus. All right. My 4 buckets have and will always be personal development, health, business, and relationships. All right. Those are my 4 buckets: personal development, health, relationships, and business. Pre-75 hard, 3 of my 4 buckets were very dry. I didn't put a whole ton of time and energy into relationships. I didn't put a whole ton of time and energy into personal development. I didn't put a ton of time and energy into health. And I put basically all of my water into business. What 75 hard taught me more than anything else is with your 4 buckets in your life, you can have more of an even distribution than you really think. I thought in order for me to have business success, I would have to run all of my other buckets dry and only pour all of my water into the business bucket. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It couldn't be further from the truth. What that led to is those other 3 areas, those became my anchors. Those became the things that were pulling me back from moving forward. And now moving forward, what I'm going to do is, yes, business is going to have a significant amount of water, but there will be a lot more water poured into relationships, into personal development, and into health. And my theory, I don't have data yet on this yet, but my theory and my hypothesis is I will see a lot more results with that mindset and approach than I did in my previous mindset and approach. And that's my biggest takeaway from 75 hard. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's a little bit different than my previous podcasts, but hopefully you enjoyed the mix up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.